Hello, my friends. I'm here in Michigan. It's a little cloudy today. It's a little chilly today, but it's a beautiful state, and we are in front of Wardcraft with my buddy RJ. I see a number down here that's an exciting number. It says 1897. For those of us who can do math, that's over 100 years to where we are today. But there's more to this history because there is an exciting ignitement of what's going on since 2019 as well. And RJ, who knows this stuff far better than I do, is going to go into the details of this. But RJ, let's talk about why I see 1897 here and what we're currently getting into today.
Yeah, so Wardcraft as a whole started in 1897. It was a partnership between a photographer and a doctor. They started in the agricultural business, primarily hauling grain, moving grain, a lot of that stuff. They pioneered a bean sorting mechanism at one point in time. Pretty crazy for the time that they were working with and the crudeness of it, but yet the effectiveness of it was amazing. And then through the years, once the automotive industry really picked up in America, that's when they really kind of shifted their gears and realized there was going to be a huge need for scrap removal, material handling, conveyors of, those sorts, hauling parts, hauling scrap, whatever it was. So they looked into that, and throughout the decades of the 50s and 60s, they developed some slug conveyors, steel hinge conveyors, multiple different conveyors, yet again, for hauling parts and scrap throughout all the automotive companies. GM was primarily one right from the get-go, considering the localness of it, obviously Ford and Chrysler. And then once the 70s hit and the 80s hit, they just continually did what they did. The biggest thing that always set them apart, and it still does to this day, was the over-engineered and just the robustness of it, right? Because I kind of say this all the time with forklift drivers. We love them, but we also hate them at the same time being a conveyor company. Because more than likely they are going to hit our conveyors. It's just the way, the day and age and the nature that it is. So what we try to do is make sure our conveyor can handle that. It can also handle, handling the scrap that it's coming down onto, the fall, everything. It's just over-engineered. If we think it needs to be 10 gauge, we're bumping it up to 7 gauge. If it needs to be quarter, we're probably bumping it up to ½ inch, so on and so forth. So they moved out here in the 90s. They originally started in Jackson, Michigan. They had a really small shop in kind of the middle of a neighborhood with a bunch of kind of added buildings here and there. It kind of looks very crude from the top, but man, they sent some stuff out of that was very impressive over the years. So yeah, came out here in the early 90s. Still here to this day. In 2019, we became under new ownership, got our names changed to Wardcraft Industries. And from there, we've just been kind of hitting the ground running with some new ideas and some, new avenues and some new approaches that our new ownership kind of, helped us develop. And here we are right now.
That's absolutely perfect, RJ. The reason I wanted to do that for the audience, standing outside in front of the logo, is because when you are expanding and growing and creating awareness, we want to know where you come from, the longevity. It creates trust of everything that's going on. But what goes with that is being able to see the inside and how you're actually doing things. So because it's cold out here, would you like to head inside and show the audience what's going on?
I'm fine, but I guess we can if you are.
Well, you can hang out a little bit. I'll see you in a little while, right? Yep. All right, RJ, well, we made it inside. I'm done stuttering from the cold a little bit. I think I've got it outside of my system. We're standing on your mezzanine overlooking this shop. Now, conveyors, in my opinion, I don't think are discussed enough. You guys have a history. You've been here quite a while. I cannot wait to learn, just like the audience today. So let's first start with the uniqueness. You mentioned over-engineering outside a few times. So let's first start with that and talk to the audience about what sets you guys apart in this world of conveyors that you think that they should know.
Yes, 90% of our conveyors are built with a 10 gauge frame, and that we don't go any less than that. Everything is welded together. If it's a steel hinge conveyor that's got some curves and it goes, up and over and around, it's all going to be welded together, or, welded flanges that get bolt together. Nothing module, nothing bolt together, because unfortunately over time those things loosen up, bolts fall on the ground, so on and so forth. So yet again, and it's fully, when we say fully welded, we mean it's fully welded. Everything is welded, all seams are welded, and we've had these things last. Customers come in with units from the 70s and 80s to look for spare parts and say this thing does nothing but run. And that's what we love to hear. It just really gets our, motor going when we're here, and we hear units that that are older than me, I mean, that's what blows my mind, because that's just speaks to what we do here, and yet again, the over-engineered and the robustness of it. Yet again, nothing's bolted together. I just want to emphasize on that.
The two questions I want to ask based on that is, one, why wouldn't everyone do it? Is it about the commitment to quality? Is it about how much time it takes to do something like that?
Yeah.
And two, is it really costly to have to repair some other models out there that aren't built so robustly as yours? Is it really expensive to constantly, think about the downtime of the machines most likely, right? Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, because realistically, depending on the process, more often than not, when the conveyor goes down, everything goes down.
Right.
It isn't the machine that took the whole process down or the whole line down, it's probably the conveyor. And if some of those are the bolt together modular ones, you're constantly having to go back through, get them back together, straighten them, track the belts, and everything else like that. So yeah, there is a constant, like every year, you got to do some overhaul to it, or every 2 years, got to do some overhaul. Mm-hmm. Where with ours, the ultimate goal is you shouldn't have to, with proper maintenance, you shouldn't have to touch it for 2-3 years, other than the proper maintenance. That's our ultimate goal. As long as we understand what it's doing, what the process is, and as long as that process doesn't change based on the way we quoted and designed it, it should hold up to the durability and the environment that it's in. That's obviously the first thing you want to start with when you're dealing with a conveyor and a project and everything. Mm-hmm. Understanding, what are we moving? What's the whole process? How fast is it coming down, hitting the conveyor? Is it just dropping on the conveyor? Is it being loaded on the conveyor with a robot operator? Anytime there's an operator, safety's got to come into play. So you just want to make sure you understand all of that. And, kind of going back to the cost thing, if you got to replace the conveyor every 3 years versus only repairing a conveyor after 5 years, simple math should give you the answer there.
Yeah, that would be simple math. And I was doing the first one with, repairs 1 to 3 years, like you first said, that kind of thing. Yeah. But my brain always goes to numbers, and I always want to figure that stuff out, right?
Exactly.
So, all right, now we've realized that almost everything you do is custom for the company, because it needs to be that way.
Exactly.
It's gonna be over-engineered, it's gonna be rigid, it's gonna last, right? You now have the history that we've been talking about, where you've adapted and grown and survived and turned into things.
Exactly.
And, it's really cool. So as we're looking around, we see so much action behind us. Are there any specific areas that you'd like to point out and go, well, this is something that nobody else does, and blah, blah, whatever it might be there?
The first and foremost thing is, if you look, you don't see any conveyors that are ready to go. Right, that are just sitting here in inventory that are just ready to go, because we don't stock conveyors. We stock parts that make conveyors, because we make the conveyors custom to the projects and everything else. The first thing that we would probably point out is our 2.5-inch pitch steel hinge belt.
Okay.
We get all the material locally sourced here, within the state. So we have everything in-house for, 90% of the time to knock a belt out, within a timely manner to get it to a customer. Because that's, normally when they call up and they need a replacement belt, it means they're down. Right. They need a belt to go in there. So, if the opportunities are all in there, and then we can come together, we can potentially get one of those out same week, depending on options and everything else. But that's one thing that sets us apart, is all of our steel hinge, 2.5-inch pitch steel hinge belts, whether it's low pro or standard, is all made here in-house, ready to go, parts on the shelf within a reason of the options, because yet again, we're custom. So not only is the conveyor custom, but our belts are 100% custom as well. You can get those in any widths, all the way down to 14 1/4, 36 5/8.
Wow.
We will do whatever we need to do.
So I'm looking around, and speaking of that, I see some big situations here. Over on the other side of that paint booth, there's some big situations there. You did mention custom, so I want to ask you, for the audience who's watching right now, are there specific industries that you work in? Are there a majority of one industry? Is this for everyone? Who are we talking to right now that's curious to know more?
I would say the majority of our conveyors end up in, the manufacturing as whole.
Right.
But, and yet again, I don't have the numbers, but I would say over half are in the automotive industry, the stamping industry, metal forming in one way or another. There's, and the other, 20-30% would be into part handling. The part's already finished, it's just taking it to point A, point B. And that would be more of your rubber belts, your fabric belts. Yet again, still fully welded, still 10-gauge frame, nothing bolt together. Mm-hmm. But those would be the difference between a steel hinge conveyor, where the steel hinge is the dirty, nasty, gritty offensive lineman of conveyors, right? It just does the dirty work that nobody really knows about, doesn't get the recognition that it does because it's under a press in a pool of oil, just, you know, taking metal all day long and just hauling it back out. And that's, you know, yet again where we set ourselves apart, because that metal's hitting that conveyor, and we, you know, if we know and we can design and we got all the information up front, we're making sure that thing's going to take that metal all day long as it can, with the proper maintenance, should last a very long time.
Even with forklift drivers hitting it.
Yes, absolutely. We would love for them to put a guardrail up, but at the same time, we know that they might not. So, you know, we're gonna try to make sure that leg support can take a couple hits with a dumpster.
RJ, we've mentioned the number 2019 because of some change. MTDCNC is here today, thanks to our good buddy Josh, thanks to you, thanks for having us in here.
Absolutely.
But there's an awareness that you guys want to create, because you guys probably dominate this Michigan area. You have a Michigan shirt on right now. You mentioned automotive was the first thing because Michigan is known for automotive.
Right.
However, part of what we're doing here today is let everyone know we're expanding, we're growing. We want everyone to know that you can also give Wardcraft a call and we can support you, right?
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit to the audience across the country and say, we're here for you and this is why.
Yeah, we have regional sales managers from inside the Continental 48. Obviously, we'll get up to Alaska or Hawaii if the opportunity presents itself. I'll probably throw my name in the hat for right there, you know. I'm sure half the people will as well. So, but yeah, we're ready. We're here, ready to stand. You know, our apps team and engineering team has roughly, you know, 80 years of combined experience. We've seen a lot, been through a lot here. Just in manufacturing as a whole, in my career over the last 20 years or so, you know, if everybody's been paying attention to manufacturing, it has been a roller coaster ride to say the least. So yet again, no job's too big, no job's too small. If you got a project where you're moving something from point A to point B, or it's going down, around, up, over, we want to take a look at it. We want to see what we can do to help you guys, because in the grand scheme of things, we want to maximize your efficiency while minimizing your downtime, which always comes back to understanding what we are moving, the environment that it will be in, and then from there you can wrap it. You know, you always want to wrap in safety. You want to make sure it's the most safe if there's operators around and what's going on. And then the you know, second thing, I won't say it's more important, safety. Safety is always most important, but ease of maintenance. You know, because we maintain everything in life. You know, our cars, hell, or even our body. You know, we try to maintain it. Conveyors are the same thing. Exactly like the machine that the conveyor is feeding it. We maintain the press. We maintain the CNC machine that's feeding the conveyors with chips. So we need to maintain the conveyors the same exact way, because, yet again, if that conveyor goes down, more than likely the machine's going down. When the machine goes down, you're down. What happens when you're down? You start losing money. It also starts costing you money to get everything back up and running. So it's a trickle-down effect that we don't want anybody to go through. So we try to make sure they don't.
RJ, personally, you sold me, my friend. If I owned a machine shop right now, I'd be calling you. I'm sure there's some people out there thinking just like me. How can we find out more? Whether it's a phone number, email address, a website, a social media link, whatever you want to give to the audience so they can find you.
Yeah, we have some social media out there. Wardcraft's on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Our website is wardcraftconveyor.com.
So this is Wardcraft. This is the offensive lineman of Wardcraft, my buddy RJ. Thank you all for watching. I hope you've learned as much today as I have. RJ, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you.